The devil no longer brings fire, he brings a phone. He doesn't roar, he whispers, not bow to me, but scroll one more time. You see, destruction is no longer his favorite tool. Distraction is, because distraction doesn't scare you. It entertains you. The fall of a man rarely begins with an explosion. It begins with a slow leak, a notification, a delay, a postponed prayer, and before you know it, you've drifted. The devil doesn't pull you off your path. He simply offers a more comfortable lane. Why pursue purpose, he asks, when pleasure is easier? He doesn't need to destroy your character. He just needs you to delay building it, because delay is the graveyard where dreams go quietly. Understand this. Satan doesn't need to make you evil. He only needs to make you busy, busy enough to forget what matters. We imagine evil in horns and chaos, but evil today wears convenience. It wears noise. It looks like comfort zones and infinite scrolling. We fear demons with swords, but the real war is fought with your attention. Who owns your mind, owns your direction. The devil knows. He doesn't have to take your soul. If he can waste your time, your potential dies just the same. Your phone isn't evil. Your schedule isn't cursed. But when these things start owning you, that's when the subtle battle begins, because you can't build purpose in pieces. Focus is the currency of destiny, and distraction is the tax that steals it. How many dreams were murdered not by crisis, but by comfort? How many callings died not by accident, but by addiction to the unimportant? It is not the sword of destruction that ends most lives. It is the slow poison of distraction. That's why the devil doesn't scream. He seduces. You don't need to pray today. You've worked hard. Just relax a little more. You'll start tomorrow. That's how he talks. Not like a villain, but like a friend, and that is his masterpiece, making you feel safe as your soul sleeps, making you feel alive as your purpose decays. You don't lose your fire in one day. You lose it one ignored conviction at a time. One missed moment, one numbed emotion, one "I'll do it later." The devil doesn't fear your failure. He fears your focus, because a focused man is dangerous. A focused woman is unshakable. If he can't kill you, he'll distract you until you kill yourself. This is not a game of destruction. It's a game of attention, and whoever wins your attention wins your future. So fight back, not with fists, but with focus, with silence, with boundaries. Wake up. Turn off the noise. Sit with your soul. Reclaim your attention and give it to God, because what you give your eyes to, you give your life to, and the enemy knows if he can't have your soul, he'll settle for your schedule. Destruction is obvious. It crashes, it burns, it shocks you into attention, but distraction is polite. It waits for you to welcome it in. It doesn't kick the door down, it knocks, gently, and you open, not because you're weak, but because you didn't see it coming. We've been trained to fear what destroys us, so we look for enemies with knives, but we never suspect the soft things, the entertaining things, the small, mindless habits. We protect ourselves from disaster, but not from delay, and that's where it begins. The devil doesn't need to set your house on fire. He just needs to make you forget why you built it. He doesn't shake your life, he slowly bends it, a little detour here, a little compromise there, a little later on your purpose, and suddenly you're miles away from where you started. Destruction alarms you, but distraction deceives you. That's why it works better, because it doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like a break, like rest, like something small and harmless, but hours are lost, energy leaks. And one by one, your disciplines die. The enemy won't show up with weapons anymore. He shows up as comfort, as something to check, as just 5 more minutes, and while you're scrolling, the work you were born to do waits in silence. The passion you once had gets quieter, the vision starts to blur. You're not being destroyed, you're just being distracted, but the result is the same. Your future bleeds out in slow, quiet seconds. We've learned to fear storms. But not fog. Storms make noise. Fog just makes you miss your turn. And that's what the devil does best. He fogs your vision, makes you forget what matters, keeps you moving, but nowhere meaningful. And here's the trap. Destruction wakes you up. But distraction puts you to sleep. With your eyes wide open, you're alive, but you're not awake. You're busy, but not productive. You're scrolling, but not growing. It doesn't come as a crisis. It comes as a habit, as a new series, a few swipes, a few clicks, and slowly you become a stranger to your own calling. You didn't quit, you just looked away too long, and the moment passed, the door closed. The season ended, and now you're wondering what happened to your fire. You fed it entertainment instead of focus. You gave it ease instead of effort. You didn't mean to lose it, but distraction doesn't ask for permission. This is why the devil doesn't fight you like he used to. He doesn't destroy, he distracts, because distraction works better. It doesn't make you cry, it makes you numb. You'll never notice what you're losing until it's already gone. And by then, it's not destruction that took it, it's distraction. Silent, subtle, sufficient. You wanted to do great things, you still do, but your mind's divided. Your hours are borrowed, and your strength is scattered. Not because you're evil, but because you're distracted. And distraction doesn't feel wrong. It just feels normal. But normal is what steals the extraordinary. And in the end, it's not the things you feared. It's the things you ignored that will cost you most. After all, if distraction doesn't wake you up, then redirection keeps you walking just not toward where you were meant to go. He doesn't block the path. He simply paints a new one, a little wider, a little smoother, a little more popular. The devil knows he can't push you off the road by force, so he lays down a better, looking one next to it, and he lets your own feet do the rest. He doesn't say, leave your calling. He says, try this shortcut. And what was once purpose, driven becomes crowd, approved. You were walking straight, focused, set on something eternal, until one small turn. One small option, one small adjustment to your aim, and now your feet are still moving, but your future is not. Redirection is the quiet killer. It doesn't break things, it bends them just a little. Just enough. You'll still be doing good things, but not the right things. You'll be active, but not aligned. The devil doesn't need you to fall. He just wants you to wander, because wandering feels like freedom until you realize you're lost. That's the brilliance of redirection. It doesn't feel like rebellion. It feels like new opportunities, like maybe this is the door, like I think God's just changing the plan, but God doesn't change the plan that quickly. The enemy just changes your appetite, and when your appetite shifts, so does your direction. You don't wake up and say, I'm giving up my calling. You just wake up one day and realize you haven't heard its voice in years. Because something else started calling louder, something shinier, something easier, something more secure. And so the plan of God gets replaced by the path of comfort, not through force, through gentle rerouting. He doesn't shove, he suggests, why not chase success first? Why not build your platform first? Why not make a little more money before ministry? That's the tone. It's not violent, it's logical. Sensible, safe, but God's calling isn't always safe. It's sacred, it's costly, and redirection always offers the cheaper version. That's why most destinies don't die in sin, they die in success that wasn't meant to be yours. Good things that weren't God things. You think you're still on the path because you're still moving, but motion is not mission, and activity is not alignment. The enemy doesn't steal your purpose like a thief. He trades it like a salesman. Here, take this, it pays more. It gets more likes. It looks more stable. And you say yes, not because you're disobedient, but because you're distracted. And now you're redirected. Walking confidently in the wrong direction. Some of the most tragic lives look successful because they were built on detours, not disasters. That's why discernment is more important than desire. Desire will take any road that feels good. Discernment asks, is this the road I was sent to walk? And most people never ask, because redirection rarely looks like rebellion. It just looks like life, like decisions, like growth, but not all growth is God-given. Some of it is enemy, engineered to move you far away, slowly enough that you don't feel the drift, and by the time you realize it, you've built something beautiful on ground that was never blessed. So the question is not, am I doing something meaningful? The real question is, am I doing what I was born for? Because the enemy will never try to stop a useful life. He only wants to stop the right one. If the enemy can't redirect you in one move, he'll break you down in inches, not with obvious evil, but with acceptable erosion. Hell doesn't always announce itself with sin. It often hides in your schedule, in your logic, in your justifications. It doesn't say, reject God. It says, not right now. And that's the start, not the fall but the fade. One prayer skipped, one boundary softened, one standard bent. And suddenly, who you are is no longer who you used to be, not because of a decision, but because of dozens of tiny deals, little exchanges, small trades, soul-level bargains that never made headlines but rewrote your identity. We wait for temptation to come dressed like a monster, but it usually walks in like a suggestion, and every time you say, it's just this once, you're building hell's foundation under your own feet. The devil doesn't want to shock you, he wants to soothe you, so you never feel the damage until the damage is done. It's just a conversation. It's only one night. It's not that serious. At least I'm not like them. These are the lullabies of compromise. And they put your conscience to sleep, so by the time conviction tries to wake you, you're too numb to care. That's how hell works, not in horror but in habits. It doesn't destroy you with one decision. It dismantles you with 100 small ones. You didn't mean to lose your integrity. You just started borrowing against it. A little lie here, a half truth there, until your character isn't a wall, it's a window. And now everything gets in, because you traded your armor for approval. You traded conviction for convenience. You traded truth for trends. You never planned on falling. You just kept bending, and eventually you broke. Not loudly, but completely. The enemy knows this. That's why he doesn't rush you. He's patient. He wants you to ease your way into chains, because sudden sin wakes you up, but slow compromise sings you to sleep. And sleeping saints are easier to control than rebellious ones. You still go to church, still post Bible verses, still call yourself faithful, but inside you're empty, because compromise is hollow, and you can't be full of purpose when you're filled with excuses. Hell loves a believer who's too comfortable to change, too busy to pray, too distracted to repent, too successful to examine his soul. That's the goal, not to make you evil, just inconsistent, because inconsistency will rot a life just as fast as rebellion. That's why every decision matters, not because you're being judged, but because you're being shaped, and every small compromise is a hammer to your own foundation. You don't see the crack today, but the collapse is coming. People rarely lose themselves overnight. They lose themselves over time, with every truth they dilute, with every voice they silence, with every warning they ignore. You don't have to choose hell. You just have to stop choosing heaven. And life will drift you the rest of the way. That's how kingdoms fall. That's how legacies disappear, not through scandal, through surrender, not to sin but to slightness, to laziness, to compromise. So pay attention to the little things. They're not little. They're directions. They're doors. They're decisions dressed in disguise. What you tolerate today will control you tomorrow, and what you keep excusing will eventually own your name. That's why the devil doesn't rush to ruin you. He just needs your next yes to the wrong thing, and then another, and another, until your soul is a copy of something you once promised you'd never become. Compromise opens the door, but it's noise that fills the room. The enemy doesn't just want you to fall, he wants you to forget what you were falling from. and he does that by turning up the volume on everything that doesn't matter. Noise isn't just sound, it's distraction, it's clutter, it's busyness disguised as importance, and while you're chasing what's urgent, you're slowly losing what's eternal. Destiny doesn't disappear in one blow. It fades under the weight of 100 competing voices, voices that keep you moving but not aligned. The music of this world is loud, but purpose speaks in whispers, and you can't hear whispers when your life is always on speakerphone. You want to know why you feel confused, why your fire feels cold? It's not because you're lost. It's because you're crowded, crowded by opinions, crowded by headlines, crowded by updates and trends and options. And your soul can't breathe in that noise. Most people don't miss their calling because they weren't gifted. They miss it because they never created enough silence to hear it. You keep asking, "What am I here for?" But every free moment is filled with something someone else told you to care about. Scroll here, respond there, buy this, chase that, and slowly the signal of destiny gets drowned in static. Not evil things, just noisy things, too many voices, not enough vision, and when you don't protect your focus, the world will hand you its agenda. It will fill your calendar with everything except your calling. You'll be booked, but not built. You'll be active, but not advancing, because the enemy doesn't steal your life, he steals your attention. And once he has that, he doesn't need to destroy you. He just keeps you distracted until your purpose dies quietly. No explosion, no fire, just forgotten dreams buried under notifications. You're not stuck because you lack discipline. You're stuck because you're always surrounded by noise, and noise is the enemy of clarity. The reason you don't feel close to God isn't because he moved. It's because you can't hear him over the voices of everything you've let in. Heaven speaks in stillness, but we've built our lives around constant motion, constant updates, constant pressure to stay connected. But connected to what? Because being connected to the world has left most people disconnected from themselves. You know everyone's opinion, but you forgot your own convictions. You've gained followers but lost focus. You've been productive but not purposeful. Noise doesn't come to kill your destiny. It just keeps you too busy to notice it's dying. And by the time you finally slow down, the thing you were meant to carry has already slipped through your hands. We were created for stillness, for reflection, for depth, but we've traded meditation for multitasking. Depth for dopamine, conviction for convenience, and now your soul is exhausted, not because you've done too little, but because you've said yes to too much that never mattered. That's what noise does. It makes everything feel urgent, so you forget what's important. It keeps you running without asking where you're going. It makes you respond before you reflect. It gives you volume but no value. The enemy doesn't fear a loud life. He fears a quiet one, a life that listens, a life that discerns, a life that hears God louder than the world. And that's why your destiny is at risk, not from destruction, but from noise that never lets you go deep, never lets you be still, never lets you hear the very thing that would change your life.